I'd like to call to order the City Council meeting for the City of Wheat Ridge, Colorado for August the 24th, 2020. In just a moment here, you'll see the flag come up on your screen, and when it does, if you would please stand and join me. Stand as you are able and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Will the clerk please call the roll of the members?
Leah Dozman.
Here.
Valerie Nossler-Beck.
Present.
Amanda Weaver.
Here.
Corey Stites.
Present.
Rachel Haltine.
Present.
Zachary Urban.
Present.
Judy Hutchinson.
Present.
And Janice Hoppy.
Present.
All members of the council are present, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. Councilors, before you in your packet, you have the study session notes of August the 3rd, 2020, and the City Council minutes of August the 10th, 2020. With respect to the study session notes of August the 3rd, if I don't hear any objections, we'll let those stand as presented. So ordered. And for the City Council minutes of August the 10th, 2020, if I don't hear an objection, we'll let those stand as presented. So ordered.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, I had my
Yes.
hand up, but it was.
I'm sorry, I didn't.
No, that's okay. I
Please.
just wanted to say on, it's a really, really small one, but on page 9, my daughter's name is Olivia. I was referring to Lauren's report, but Olivia is my daughter's name, so thank you.
Oh, no, thank
Okay.
you.
Kirk will make that correction. Any other corrections to be noted? Okay, thank you so much. We are now at our citizens' right to speak. Citizens may speak on any matter not on the agenda for a maximum of 3 minutes under citizens' right to speak. Our Mayor Pro Tem will be our timekeeper. Citizens who wish to speak on a public hearing item or decision, resolution, or motion may speak when that item comes up on the agenda at the conclusion of the staff report for that specific item. Citizens may comment on any agenda item in writing before noon the day of the meeting at www.wheatridgespeaks.org. These comments are included in the public record for that item. Citizen comment may be made in person at City Council chambers. We have no one that signed up tonight to speak in council chambers, on the Zoom format using the raise your hand function, and on the telephone. If you are not speaking, please mute your telephone to decrease the background noise. This is also under citizens' right to speak, the second opportunity for public input on the 2021 budget. And that is the item that I would like to start with first. Well, you can speak on anything not on the agenda, but you may also speak on any item on the budget. So I'm going to go to Ms. Scheck, who's helping us out with this tonight. Is there anyone with their hand up in the Zoom format who would like to speak?
No, Mayor. No one with their
Okay,
hand up.
if you would like to speak in public comment, please raise your hand on the Zoom format. And do we see anyone?
No, Mayor, there's no one with their hand up. Mayor, I just wanted to take a moment to let you know that Mr. Goff lost connectivity and he's currently on the phone right now.
Okay.
And he was trying to get back in.
Thank you very much. And I want to go to members of the public who may be on the telephone. Is there anyone on the telephone who would like to speak under public comment? If you would like to, please unmute your device and speak up. And I think we're getting a little feedback from Mr. Goff there. Let's see. Is there anyone? Okay, Mr. Goff is back with us. Thank you. Is there anyone from the public who would like to speak under public comment tonight? I don't hear anyone, but we'll certainly take your comments. One more time, no one with their hand up in Zoom format and no one ready to speak? Okay, we will close our citizens' right to speak and move to our agenda items. Our agenda item number 1 is our consent agenda item. Ms. Hulteen, would you please introduce this item?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to introduce consent agenda item number 1A, which is, sorry, I just moved my paper over. Resolution number 42/2020, a resolution amending the fiscal year 2020 general fund budget to reflect the approval of a supplemental budget appropriation in the amount of $731,571 for the purpose of accepting the CARES Act local government distribution from Jefferson County. And also, oh, go on.
Please read the ad issue.
Yep. At issue, the city entered into an intergovernmental agreement. Oh, wait, do I have that right? Yeah, sorry.
Yes.
School started and staplers have disappeared in my house. So the city entered into an intergovernmental agreement, IGA, with Jefferson County for the purpose of accepting $2,463,142 in CARES Act funding in 2020. The first 50%, or $1,231,571, was appropriated by City Council on June 8th. The second 50% was received on August 7th, 2020, and now requires appropriation by City Council. City Council already appropriated $500,000 in business stabilization grant funding from general fund reserves in March and May. Therefore, this supplemental budget appropriation will be reduced by that amount for a total appropriation of $731,571. Do you want me to move that one or do them both
No,
at the
if you
same
would
time?
please introduce item number 1B.
Yep. I'd like to introduce consent agenda item 1B, resolution number 4320, a resolution amending the 2020 fiscal year general fund budget to reflect the approval of a supplemental budget appropriation for the purpose of accepting a grant from the Bureau of Justice Assistance Coronavirus Emergency Supplemental Funding Program in the amount of $33,637. At issue, the Bureau of Justice Assistance awards police departments Justice Assistance Grant JAG funds to be used for law enforcement purposes. In 2020, the Bureau of Justice Assistance, as part of the Coronavirus Emergency Supplemental Funding Program, awarded the Wheat Ridge Police Department $33,637 to be used to prepare for or respond to the coronavirus pandemic.
Thank you. May I have a motion for consent agenda item number 1A and 1B?
Yes, I move to approve consent agenda item numbers 1A and 1B.
Second.
There is a motion and a second by Mr. Urban. Will the clerk please poll the council? All those in favor of this motion, please signify by raising your hand.
Mr. Mayor, the motion has passed unanimously.
Thank you very much. We'll go to agenda item number 2. Ms. Hoppy, would you please introduce this item?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Council Bill number 17-2020, an ordinance amending section 16-103 of the Wheat Ridge Code of Laws concerning regulation of noise, ordinance for second reading. At issue, the current Wheat Ridge Code of Laws concerning unreasonable noise is qualitative in nature and is limited in scope and difficult to prove in court because it does not set an objective level by which to measure noise. This ordinance will amend section 16-103 of the Wheat Ridge Code of Laws to apply a numeric decibel standard to enforce noise complaints, enumerating from from industrial zones within the city, maintain a reasonableness standard for noise complaints in all other zone districts within the city at a distance of 50 feet or more, create a special permit program for amplified sounds at events on private property, set date and time limits, and to provide a limited number of exemptions.
Thank you. This is a public hearing, an ordinance on second reading. It is not quasi-judicial, and I'm going to open the public hearing. And Mr. Goff, do we have a staff presentation on this item?
Yes, we do, Mr. Mayor. I will expand a little bit. The issue statement was a good summary, but wanted to expand a little bit more so council and the public understands exactly what changes we're proposing in the ordinance. City Council's been addressing noise ordinance issues for the last 15 years, actually. And most recently, this last December 2019, we did receive consensus to move forward with some changes to our current ordinance. And those changes include an expansion of the types of unlawful noise. In the section B, it just adds a kind of a list of more types of unlawful noise. It changes the distance from which unreasonable noise is measured from 25 feet to 50 feet. And it clarifies the noise source is unreasonable if it continues for at least 15 minutes in a 2-hour period. It also changes the allowable operation of trash pickup from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. in residential zones. It creates a new section in code for unlawful noise for industrial properties, and it sets a maximum decibel level maximum decibel levels are set for properties receiving the noise from industrial properties. So in residential properties that are receiving the noise from an industrial zoned property, the decibel limits are set at 55 during the day and 50 at night. For commercial properties, 65 during the day, 60 at night. In industrial, 80 during the day and 75 at night. The new proposed ordinance also creates a permit process for amplified sound events. It does allow up to 6 events per location per year, and only between the hours of 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. Sunday through Thursday, and 9 a.m. and 10 p.m. on Friday and Saturday. Even if a permit is approved, they still cannot exceed 75 decibels at the nearest receiving property from that location. So that is really kind of a summary of what proposed changes are in this draft ordinance. And I will leave it at that and take questions if you have any.
Okay, thank you very much. Before we go to questions of council, I would like to open it up to public comment on this agenda item number 2. Is there anyone if you would like to speak from the public, if you would please raise your hand in the Zoom format. We will address those, and then we'll take anyone on the telephone. So, Ms. Scheck, do we have anyone with their hands raised in the Zoom format?
Mayor, we do. We have Mr. Mo Keller.
Okay. Ms. Keller, when you, if everyone would please introduce yourself, your first name and your last name. If you would spell your last name for the record and give us your street address, then you may proceed, and you'll have 3 minutes. No, we don't have any time limits on this, so please proceed, Ms. Keller.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and City Council members. My name is Mo Keller, K-E-L-L-E-R, and I live at 4325 Iris Street here in Wheat Ridge, and I'm here with my husband. We both have comments to make back to back, if that's okay.
That's fine.
So as a Wheat Ridge homeowner and city resident for 45 years here in Wheat Ridge, I want to thank the City Council for addressing the consistent use of unreasonable noise in residential neighborhoods. We're grateful for your carefully considered hybrid approach, which you first considered last December, and you are now coming to fruition tonight. So we appreciate the time that you have put into this. We support the 6 permits per year for the outdoor amplified sound event section of the proposed ordinance. This gives a business multiple day-long events through the year, while the affected neighborhoods recognize and accept that these events are going to be exempt from the audible noise 50 feet from the property line and the noise being heard within our homes. That's the compromise. Any more than 6 permits per year negates the whole concept that these events are not a business model. The enactment of the ordinance, which I understand will be September 11th, would allow any business already engaged in outdoor amplified sound events to use these 6 event permits to finish out the 2020 calendar year, thus not disrupting their business. In our city, with 2 commercial east-west cross streets adjoining residential neighborhoods on both sides, and 4 commercial north-south cross streets abutting residential. This ordinance is much needed throughout the city and will be much appreciated by the residents living in the neighborhoods. The specifics outlined in the proposed ordinance will also be much clearer to the establishments wishing to engage in outside noise and much easier to comply with. So as you look to discuss and adopt the proposed noise ordinance this evening, please do remember that stable neighborhoods matter, that responsible home ownership matters. The city of Wheat Ridge is a very desirable place to live, and we've lived here, as I said, 45 years. We've invested in our homes, we've been engaged in civic affairs, and we value our neighborhood. So please support us and support the ordinance as written. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'll recognize Mr. Keller.
Thank you very much. Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you are.
To Mr. Mayor and to the City Council and the City Manager and the city staff present, we 5 households on the 4300 block of West 44th Avenue and the adjacent portion of West 43rd Avenue appreciate the time and attention that the Mayor, City Council, and City Manager have given to the proposed revision of the city's noise ordinance. As you are aware from our recent emails and public comments, we are working with the city government to improve the ordinance so that Wheat Ridge neighborhoods can be better protected against the stress and aggravation of regular and frequent periods of excessive noise. We are aware from living near 44th Avenue that businesses at one time or another may generate excessive noise. And we realize that this goes along with being adjacent to a commercial street. Occasional noise is one thing, but an ongoing business model of frequent noise disturbance extending into a residential neighborhood is something else. This is the situation our neighborhood has struggled with this summer. We residential homeowners do not hassle, inconvenience, or cause stress to nearby businesses, and we believe that nearby business owners should show us the same consideration. Commercial enterprises, like private citizens, should act with respect toward their neighbors. A business model of outdoor amplified sound events twice per weekend over a period of several months degrades the quality of life in the adjacent residential neighborhood, makes the area less attractive to live in, and may decrease local property values. That model is what we are living with now. We respectfully request that the proposed revision to the noise ordinance allow 6 and no more than 6 outdoor amplified sound events per year for a given location. We believe that this type of special use permit arrangement would be fair both to businesses and to adjacent homeowners. Neighborhoods bind Wheat Ridge together, and we respectfully ask you to please show them your support. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Scheck, do we have other speakers with their hand up in the Zoom platform?
No one with their hand up, Mayor.
All right. Is there anyone joining us from the public who would like to speak on this that hasn't had the opportunity?
Mayor, we now have Dan Larson's hand up.
Okay, Mr. Larson, please introduce yourself and give us your address, and you may speak.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening. My name is Dan Larson. It's Larson, and I live at 4799 Flower Street in Wheat Ridge. I'm here tonight to request the addition of a muffler requirement to the revisions of the city's noise ordinance in section 16-103. I commend the council for producing a sensible revision to the noise ordinance that adds some objective measurements while allowing for reasonable commercial activities and special events. I live 1 block east of Garrison Street, of the Garrison Street underpass at I-70. My small patio faces I-70 embankment and the frontage road. And on Friday nights, I have fun using the decibel meter app on my phone to see which car or motorcycle racks up the loudest sound as it accelerates down the frontage road to Carr Street. You know, as much fun as that is, I believe the simple addition of a muffler requirement for all vehicles, including cars, pickups, and motorcycles, would go a long way to reducing what is referred to as impulsive noise, which is noise that amplifies quickly and then reduces after a few seconds. Here is suggested text to be added to the noise ordinance. Any vehicle anywhere in the city must be equipped with a muffler. A muffler must be maintained to prevent noise in excess of the noise emitted as original equipment. No cutoffs or bypass devices. And the definition of a muffler is a device consisting of a series of chambers or baffle plates designed to transmit engine exhaust gas while reducing engine sound. I appreciate the work that has gone into the noise ordinance revisions so far. However, I requested if council cannot agree to add the muffler requirement tonight, that a vote on the noise revisions be deferred. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Larson. Ms. Scheck, do we have anyone else with their hand up in the Zoom format?
No, Mayor, no one with their hand up.
Okay, is there anyone else in the public who's not spoken on this item who would like to speak now? Okay, hearing none, I'm going to close the public comment on this item and open it up to questions from council. If you have a question, please raise your hand and I will call on you. Ms. Weaver.
I was just curious from city staff if there's anything that is addressed about mufflers in our noise ordinance. I think the person who called in, Mr. Larson, has a good point, and we have some issues on 38th Avenue at 5 o'clock in the morning. When I'm getting up to deal with animals, there is a very, very loud car that goes down 38th. And I was just curious if there was anything, if it's dealt with in noise or in any other part of our code as far as a muffler requirement.
It is not, Councilmember Weaver. It's, you know, the current code as drafted, and actually the current code that's effective in Wheat Ridge for noise, I think would address it as an unreasonable noise. It's not specifically spelled out as muffler, as inoperable mufflers. There's many of the codes that I've investigated across the country do have a specific language that refers to mufflers, and I've shared that with Councilmember Dozeman and the city attorney and our chief of police. So that's something we could add. It's, you know, I think we've talked about this in previous years, and I think the previous chief was hesitant about putting something in. It's something that would be very hard to enforce, just so that you all know.
Gotcha.
Unless there's a known, you know, habitual violator that you can identify. But you know, the police department's not going to be able to chase down cars going down I-70 or even some of the major corridors. By the time we find out that there's a complaint, the car is long gone. But it could address some of the issues where there's some known, I think, violators with vehicles that don't have proper mufflers on. So it's language that could be inserted very easily, I believe, into tonight's ordinance.
Could it also, if it wasn't, do you feel like the ordinance that we're discussing right now would allow a person like me, if there was a habitual person in my neighborhood that was repeat offending, that I could deal with it, or would I need a muffler addition? Does that make sense?
I will let maybe the city attorney address that. I believe the current ordinance could address it, but Mr. Dahl.
Okay.
Yes, it could. If you look at the subsection B of the current ordinance, you'll notice that's the sort of general unlawful noise, residential and commercial properties. And you'll notice that it includes sounding of any horns, et cetera, a similar device on any automobile, motorcycle, or vehicle, the amplified sound, signaling device. So that's it includes but not limited to.
Okay.
while it talks about a signaling device on a motor vehicle, that'd be a horn. While sounds from a motor vehicle per se are not listed, that's an including but not limited to section that's intended to be by its terms really broad. And what you do is you go back to the lead-ins portion of that sentence to determine its scope. That would be a noise that under the circumstances presented, a noise injures or endangers the comfort, repose, etc. of any person.
Okay. Thank you.
Measuring tool, honestly, there's no way for that subsection to think of all the kinds of noise generating equipment. So it does an including but not limited to, and then defaults back to the first phrase, which is really, if it really is bothering you, then it's unlawful. So that would be the basis if I were to write a ticket for a police officer that I would use if there was a habitual offender, as you described.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Urban.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As it relates to the amplified sound event permit that's allowable up to 6 times per year, there's a provision in there that allows an officer to intervene in a given event and curtail the event, shut it down, or otherwise basically revoke the permit for that particular event. But it doesn't appear that we have any ability to curtail any further permits issued to that particular quote unquote violator. So am I reading that right? That someone could have an event that we permitted, that event gets out of hand, but then we're still required to offer them the remainder 5 or whatever number that they have left, and we can't not permit them those future events, correct?
That's correct. I would draw your attention though to a subsection D2 on the previous page, where when they come back in for another permit, or permit number 4, if the problem was on permit number 3, each permit is its own application, and it is approved as conditions are denied after review by the police department and other departments as appropriate. It would be appropriate for the city manager or his designee to take into consideration the particular facts around that prior occasion, and might well say, no, I'm not. Yes, I am, with conditions, or the facts in the prior occasion were unique enough, and I'm sort of imagining this to go along, but were unique enough, and the permittee has taken actions or has expressed appropriate remorse, and I'm going to issue the permit without a condition. But I think that D2 clearly allows the manager to take into consideration the prior actions and behaviors of the permittee.
Okay, that helps. Thank you.
Thank you. Pardon me, Ms. Hulteen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a question that I need a little clarification regarding the definition of event location. In the proposed ordinance, it defines the event location as it shall mean the real property at which
Ms. Hulteen, we've lost the audio feed. Ms. Hulteen, we can't hear you. No. Ms. Scheck, do you have any idea what might be the issue with Ms. Hulteen's audio feed?
I don't, seeing as I can hear you all. I'm wondering if it's Ms. Hulteen's headphones. Can you hear us?
She can't seem to hear us right now.
Oh,
Looks like she's going to log back in.
I think she's going to try to call back in. Let's hold on for just a moment.
I think it's one of those Zoom days.
Well, they had some issues earlier in the morning, so all we can do is sort of smile about it.
maybe we could go to another question if there's one, Mayor, Mr. Mayor.
I don't have anyone in the queue. If anyone isn't, Mr. Urban, I will recognize Mr. Urban, and then we'll come back to Ms. Hulteen.
I'll make this quick. Under section B, unlawful noise, residential and commercial properties, under the added language, the word intended, I think, is misspelled. It says intended for non-emergency purposes. It's in the fourth line of the added language.
I see it. Thank you, Mr. Urban. We will fix that.
Okay, let's see. There's
back.
Ms. Hulteen coming in now, looks like. Okay, I see her on the screen. Do you have audio, Ms. Hulteen?
I do. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you fine. Please continue wherever you left off to the best of your knowledge.
Well, I was reading aloud, so it's pretty easy. So my question was in regards to the definition of event location that's being used here. It says shall mean the real property at which an amplified sound event is held, extending to the exterior property lines thereof. And I'm just wondering if we need more clarification. So for example, the business on 44th, there's one business that actually hosts live music, but I believe the property is, it's a single property owned that has two different businesses on it. And so we're defining it as real property, but do we need to actually maybe distinguish the real property that's occupied by the business instead of when we look at like a conglomerate of businesses that are within a single property? So like a strip mall that might have two different businesses within it that want to host events.
Maybe say the real property emanating the noise, Mr. Dahl, or something like that.
Yes, it'd have to be something like the real property owned and occupied by the permittee. So if you've got a strip mall, permittee does not own or occupy anything other than their leasehold interest for whatever portion of the strip mall they're in. There'll be a lease somewhere, and a lease is an interest in real property. So that allows you to get there. So it would be the real property owned or occupied, owned or legally occupied by the permittee would do what you're trying to achieve.
Okay. Thank you.
I'm making a note as we go. I assume there'll be some amendments at the end, and we can keep track of them.
Okay, thank you.
Additional comments, questions, Mr. Urban?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Going into the definitions a little bit further, it indicates that an amplified sound event is an outdoor event on private property which amplifies sound, and then it goes further to describe the event location using an example of a block party, saying that that location shall be a public street. So that a block party wouldn't be described as an amplified sound event by the definition of amplified sound event. So I don't know what's the benefit of having the description of a block party in the event location description, or do we need a permit in order to have the block party in addition to the block party permit?
I think that's the intention, and I see your point. It may be that less is more here, and you just delete the words on private property. Amplified sound events, an outdoor event at which amplified sound is permitted pursuant to the section. Then you go to the application and the permittee and go on from there. Now, no question, the social policy at issue here is for the council and not me to determine whether block parties that you're going to have amplified sound should be required to get a permit.
Well, I guess if we redefine the amplified sound event to exclude or to remove the private property element, that then brings in the Carnation Festival festival itself, as well as the parade, as two separate events that would both need sound permits.
Yes.
As well as concerts in the park or other events like that as well. So.
And it does say, Mr. Urban, in section G, any activity or noise source conducted or caused by an activity conducted or sponsored or approved by the city shall be exempt from the requirements. of this section, so that would exempt those if that's maybe not a policy decision that council wants to make to exempt city events, but that's what the current code says, and that's in our current code. That's not an amendment.
I guess for block parties, I don't want to make it any more difficult than we have to. If someone is seeking a block party permit, that we make that as streamlined as possible, and to tell them they have to go to this department to get this one and this department to get that one. I'm sure we can have it all in one form, but it does seem rather difficult to have multiple permits for one party.
Clearly a policy call for the council. There's probably some block parties that are ones the neighbors would welcome, and others that they might not, or they might want some conditions or protections. It's difficult to predict the fact patterns going either way.
And I guess that made me think of the situation where an applicant for an amplified sound event at their business were to then, after they've run through their 6 permitted options, then start hosting block parties in the adjacent street or something to that effect? Or are they able to do something like that?
It's a different location, so yes. Okay. The 6 permit limit is restricted to the particular location, so that is true.
Thank you. Additional questions from council? All right, before I close the public hearing, are there any additional questions for staff on this item? Okay, I'm going to close the public hearing and a motion is in order. Ms. Hoppy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move to approve Council Bill number 17-2020, an ordinance amending section 16-103 of the Wheat Ridge Code of Laws concerning regulation of noise on second reading, and that it takes effect 15 days after final publication, with the exemption of subsection 16-103C concerning unlawful noise, industrial properties, which subsection shall take effect on February 28th, 2021, as permitted by section 5.11 of the city charter, with the following changes. The definitions under amplified sound event, to strike the words on private property. To definitions of event location, to add the words owned or legally occupied by permittee, and to add a section, let's see, under C.A, add a number 3 that would read, notwithstanding the foregoing, a real property owner in industrial zone district upon which there exists a noise source in operation at the time of this section 16-103C becomes effective, may apply to the city manager for a permit for a different decibel level requirement and or time limitation specific to such real property. Such real property owner will submit the following to the city manager as an application for such permit: a written request for the decibel level, time of day of week limitations, and other elements of the permit desired. 2, a noise study prepared by a licensed professional engineer supporting the ability of the applicant to comply with the permit levels and conditions requested or to be imposed. 3, any other documents required by the city manager to render the application complete. The city manager will review the application materials and meet with the applicant within 30 days of such submittal and shall recommend to City Council approval with conditions, or denial of the application by City Council. The decision of City Council shall be the final decision of the city, subject to judicial appeal. Permit conditions may include, but are not limited to, permitted decibel levels, time and day of week limitations, term of permit and whether renewal periods are permitted, neighborhood outreach and education, contact for complaints, and authority for the city manager to revoke the permit for failure to comply with limitations and conditions. If the city council approves the permit, the city manager will issue the permit.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second.
We have a second by Mr. Urban. Is there discussion on the motion? Ms. Hoppy, Mr. Urban, and Ms. Dozman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to say thank you to Councilwoman Nosler Beck and Councilwoman Dozman for working within our industrial zoning, which is the only zone where we have put in decibel levels, and working with the citizens in the area where an industrial zone is affecting their life, their like peace and life and quiet in their homes, and being able to bring everybody to the table to find a good and reasonable solution, and to make a nice, solid, clean ordinance for us. So I just want to say thank you very much to you guys for that.
Thank you, Mr. Urban, and then Ms. Dozman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Within the language of the amendment regarding the industrial zone districts, there's a segment that talks about the decision of the city council shall be the final decision of the city subject to judicial appeal. And my question, I guess, is to the city attorney, the language subject to judicial appeal, is that something that is new and unique to this, or is there always a judicial appeal that we're subject to in these regards?
There always is the right to appeal. The reason that language I think is helpful is because occasionally you get there will be a decision of the city, and there's an argument about whether, well, can you reconsider it, or what other internal city approvals or places can I go? And it really eliminates all debate over whether they're stuck with just going to the district court in 30 days. It really eliminates all debate if you say it's the final decision of the city subject to judicial appeal. I'd be fine with ending at the final decision of the city. That would be fine too, with me.
I'm okay with either one. I just didn't want to create some perch that wasn't already there. And then I guess in addition to that, this is my second sort of wrinkle in this is when it goes on to talk about the ability to revoke the permit, how does that coincide with the language of final decision? If the final decision is to issue the permit, how do we allow for revocation by the city manager if we've already made that final decision? Are those two separate components?
They are. The structure of this is kind of created by committee, and so you have different pieces came in different times. But I would interpret as written that the approval of a permit by the city council is what is the final decision, gets reviewed only by the district court. If the city manager were to revoke, that's actually also the final decision of the city on a revocation. So there's the grant and there's the revocation. We could go on to say that such revocation decision is also the final decision of the city. You certainly probably don't want an appeal of a city manager revocation to the council, although you could provide for it. If you make no changes, I would interpret the language to mean that both are final decisions, the council decision to grant and the city manager's decision, which you've delegated to him in this ordinance, to revoke.
Okay. And then does this run with the land, or does it run with the business that is currently occupying the land, or how do we? I guess that relates to the terms and conditions of the permit, but I guess if a new property owner, because it talks about the real property owner, doesn't.
That's a question. I think. Yeah. Without more, I would say when you go to the beginning of the proposed amendment, it's the real property owner where there is a noise source. So I believe that if that property is sold containing the noise source, that the success, unless the permit otherwise states, it would run with the land. Now, I will tell you this, the way the structure of the ordinance would read, or this amendment reads, the city manager certainly can impose any, you'll notice the language of conditions is may include but not be limited to a bunch of different things. One of those things can easily be that this permits personal to the applicant, goes away if the applicant sells this property. That's a classic permit condition that can be imposed whether or not it's within this list, because it's an including but not limited to list. The way to think about it, and I'm glad you're asking the question, is a little bit how the city thinks about variances, because sometimes a variance is granted because of the particular qualifications of the applicant as a person. You can trust for various reasons, but those variances are granted and are personal to the applicant, don't run with the land. It's clearly within the city manager's authority, as this is drafted, to provide that this does not run with the land. So it's you can make it specific, but the city manager would have that authority even without an amendment.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I have Ms. Dozman next, and then Ms. Hoppy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to add an amendment to the motion, and Dahl, I might need your help with as to where, but regarding the mufflers, the language, no person shall operate or cause to be operated any motor vehicle or motorcycle not equipped with a muffler or other device in good working order so as to effectively prevent loud or explosive noises therefrom.
There is an amendment on, is there a second to the amendment? Ms. Weaver, second to the amendment.
I would second.
Sorry, Ms. Weaver.
I just meant to say I would second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Thank you very much. Is there discussion on the amendment? Mr. Urban.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate the public comment that was offered tonight regarding the mufflers, and I understand the genesis of that. My reservation about this amendment is the lack of additional public input and additional understanding of how this would impact other individuals that really haven't had an opportunity to address it. I would like us to table that particular issue for a future meeting to get a better feel for what kind of impacts it would have and being able to better understand its impacts. So that's my reservation on this particular amendment.
Thank you. Is there further discussion on the amendment, Ms. Hoppy?
I kind of agree with Councilmember Urban. One thing that I would just like to note for Councilwoman Dozman and Weaver, who have made the amendment and seconded it, if what you hear from the rest of council is that they would maybe like a little more feedback on this piece, then what I would do if I were you is pull the amendment off the table and ask for it to be added to a future study session, because if the amendment doesn't pass, then you have 6 months before it can be reconsidered. So I just wanted to give you guys that information of some paths that you can take.
Ms. Hulteen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I agree with other sentiments that I think it's an important issue, and I'm really grateful that we had somebody bring it to our attention. I would like to see it at a study session where we could actually go in a little bit more detail based on the information we received in terms of the difficulty of enforcing it. I think a lot of the other parameters contained within this maybe create some sticky points that would make it not have as many teeth if it's in here. So I hope that maybe what we can do is get it on a study session and look at it as a standalone and hopefully come up with something that's a little bit stronger. Still probably very difficult, but maybe that we would be able to enforce with some effectiveness if there's a recurring problem. And meanwhile, I do feel like what we are adopting, if if there is a specific problem that occurs a lot, I do believe there is some opportunity under the current ordinance to enforce that. So, so I would love to see it move forward on a study session. Thank you.
Additional discussion on the amendment. Ms. Nosler-Beck.
I just would like to also say that I support moving this to a study session to discuss and learn more about it, because I really appreciate people coming to the meeting tonight to talk about it further. But I'm really concerned in terms of how we enforce and how we're able to support the police force and everybody who'd have to actually implement it. So.
Additional discussion on the amendment. Ms. Dozeman.
If I have the permission from Councilmember Weaver, I can pull that off of the, revoke that amendment and bring it to a study session if that's the consensus among other members. And I'm getting a thumbs up, so.
Ms. Weaver, just for the record, Ms. Dozeman would like you to rescind your second.
I will rescind.
Thank you very much. Then we will not consider amendment number 1. And before we went to that, I had Ms. Hoppy in the queue. Are you still have anything that you want to bring up? We're discussing now the main motion.
Sorry, I forgot my line of thought. I just wanted to ask Mr. Dahl, kind of along the lines of Councilmember Urban's questions about does this run with the property or run with the business? I just wanted to clarify. It sounded to me like you were saying as it's written, it runs with the business. So my question would be if someone sold the business, so if a business that has a permit, which by the way, it already has to be in time of operation at the time of adopting this ordinance. So no new businesses can come in, say we want to make a lot of noise and get a permit. This is for already in operation businesses, in essence, a grandfather type clause. So if I sell Janice's place that makes lots of noise to Mary Schmary, and Mary Schmary then, when she buys it legally, she has to have her own name. So it would be Mary Schmary doing business as Janice's place that makes lots of noise. Would it still go with the business, or would there have to be a new application for the different decibel level? And would it still be considered an operation that was operating in the time of when this section became effective?
That's a good question. I think you are right to distinguish between the property owner and frankly, the owner of the business that's generating the noise. Its property doesn't generate noise. It's whatever is done with it. And very often the generator of the noise might well be a leasehold owner, a renter. In many cases, especially in the industrial district, business owner is also the property owner. It's more likely that they will be the same. I think council could probably achieve the goal it's trying to achieve with this amendment by substituting business owner for real property owner. Because when you think about it, that's ultimately who you're going to need to be dealing with, who's going to need to be subject to conditions, and you don't have the risk that the business and the property end up in different ownerships. Now, if I'm a business owner and I'm applying for a permit from the city, I may or may not need to get the permission of my property owner if I don't own the property, but that's between me and the property owner, no different than a restaurant that needs to get the permission of the underlying landowner to apply for a restaurant license or something. That's fine. So to address the concern you're raising, I think that it addresses it by substituting business for real property, and I think it does no harm. In other words, there's not a fact pattern we're kind of leaving unregulated by making that somewhat narrower distinction.
Thank you, Ms. Hoppy.
So, Mr. Dahl, your recommendation is in the added ACA 3, or sorry, in the added CA 3 that I read into record, your suggestion is to change the words from real property owner to business owner. Is that how I'm understanding your recommendation?
Yes.
And I'm sorry, I didn't write down who my second was, but I would be happy to make that amendment. Councilmember Urban, are you okay with that? Okay.
Yes, I am.
Okay, so we have then, is that, do we need, Mr. Dahl, do we need to vote on that as an independent amendment?
No, the amendment's pending in front of you, and as long as the maker of the motion and the second agree to adjust the amendment, it's the motion in front of the council is as amended.
Okay, so,
And
Mr. Urban?
I have one additional item. In looking at this, understanding that it is for existing business owners, would it be prudent to put a time frame on when this application can be submitted so that it doesn't just hang out there in perpetuity? So that there'd be a 180-day time frame in which they can make application for this. What I don't want to see have happen is someone 6 years from now realizing they're violating the noise ordinance and coming back and looking at this and saying, oh, well, I think we qualify for this. Or is there any detriment to having that time frame?
No detriment. The way to address it perhaps would be to require that application be filed on or before the effective date of that particular section, which is per the proposed motion, February 28, 2021, right? Because that's the effective date specifically for that section. So you certainly could add.
In that first sentence, maybe?
Yes, I'd add it in about the third line where it says, in operation time, this section becomes effective, may apply, comma, on or before February 28th, 2021, to the city manager, etc.
Other thoughts on that?
Ms. Hoppy?
I see the reason why Councilmember Urban is heading down that road, but I guess my concern would be part of the reason of adding this in there for the industrial zones is to make sure that we're covering businesses that are already in operation in our community and in our city, and to not kind of backdoor them by saying, hey, by the way, we changed our noise ordinance and now you're an offender, and to give them that opportunity, but to not allow for new businesses to come in and say, hey, we don't want to spend the money on the noise mitigation when we're building out our project. So we would want to get this, they won't be allowed. So I guess for me, my thoughts on that is that I wouldn't change that language, because even if it is 6 years down the road, as long as they are in business by the February 28th, 2021, then they can have the option to ask, and it's not a guarantee, but to ask for the special decibel permit. It's sort of like a kind of grandfathering in a clause for those businesses that are already in our community. So I guess that's why I would maybe be opposed to adding that language.
Ms. Dozeman?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I agree with Councilmember Hoppy. I would say that it isn't necessary because it has to come back to council for approval anyhow. So 6 years down the road, if we see a permit regarding this matter in front of us, then I think it would kind of be addressed at that point in time, and whether it would be appropriate. So I think we've kind of put in contingencies for that.
Thank you.
Additional discussion on the motion? Seeing none, will the clerk please poll the council? All those in favor signify by raising your hand.
Mr. Mayor, the noise ordinance has passed unanimously.
Thank you very much. We will move to agenda item number 3. Ms. Weaver, would you please introduce this item?
Sure, thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is Resolution 44-2020, a resolution approving an intergovernmental agreement concerning the establishment of a regional homeless navigator to support and assist those experiencing homelessness. The City of Wheat Ridge is committed to regional homeless navigation efforts between Jefferson County and the cities therein to address the increasing number of individuals experiencing homelessness. In partnership with the cities of Golden and Edgewater, Wheat Ridge will staff or contract one full-time homeless navigator to share between the 3 cities.
Thank you very much. This is an issue that we had a discussion at a recent study session. Mr. Goff, do we have a presentation on this item?
No presentation this evening. Mary Ann Schilling is here if you have any questions.
Okay, thank you very much. Before we go to questions of council, I would like to open this item up to the public for any public comment on that. If you have public comment on this item, would you please raise your hand in the Zoom format? And I will ask Ms. Schilling to see if we have any hands raised in the Zoom format.
Mayor, nope, we don't. No Zoom hands.
Okay, thank you very much. And I will also ask if there's anyone on the telephone who would like to speak on this item. Speak up now. Okay, I don't hear anyone, so we will close our public comment portion of this item and go to questions of council. Okay, I don't see any questions, so Ms. Weaver, a motion is in order.
I move to approve resolution number 44-2020, a resolution approving an intergovernmental agreement concerning the establishment of a regional homeless navigator to support and assist those experiencing homelessness.
Second.
Ms. Nosler Beck, I'm going to give the second to you. So is there discussion on the motion? Seeing none, will the clerk please poll the council? All those in favor of the motion, please signify by raising your hand.
Mr. Mayor, the motion has passed unanimously.
Thank you very much. We will now go to agenda item number 4. Ms. Dozeman, would you please introduce this item?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So motion to approve appointment to a city council district 4 vacancy on the Cultural Commission. At issue, due to the recent resignations of the Ruth Baranowski and Jan Southcott, the city council appointed 2 new district 4 members on August 10th, 2020 to the Cultural Commission. Afterwards, one applicant declined the appointment, and as such, a seat in District 4 Cultural Commission continues to remain vacant. The term of this position will expire on March 2nd, 2021.
And if you would like to continue with a motion, or please do.
Yes, I would like to continue with the motion. Thank you. I move to appoint Megan Schneckenberger to the Cultural Commission for District 4 to fill a vacancy term ending March 2nd, 2021.
Thank you very much. We have a motion and a second by Ms. Nosler Beck. Is there discussion on the motion? Seeing none, will the clerk please poll the council? All those in favor of the motion, please signify by raising your hand.
Mr. Mayor, the motion has passed unanimously.
Thank you very much. We will now go to agenda item number 5. Mr. Urban, would you please introduce this item?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Reconsideration of Ordinance 1696, Series 2020, an ordinance repealing Chapter 16, Article 10, massage parlors, and reenacting regulation of massage businesses by amending Chapter 11, licenses, permits, and miscellaneous business regulations by the addition of a new article entitled Massage Businesses and making conforming amendments to Chapter 2, Article 5, Administrative Enforcement, and Chapter 26, Zoning and Development.
Thank you very much. We will have two motions on this. Mr. Goff, do we have any presentation on this item?
We do. City Attorney Dahl will give a brief explanation why this is in front of you this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Dahl. Please continue.
Thank you, Council. You saw this ordinance, of course, on second reading on August the 10th and did approve it. There are three sections at the end of the ordinance that make conforming changes to Chapter 26 in the Code of Laws. And as you well know, the vast majority of this ordinance established new regulations for massage businesses in Chapter 11 of the Code of Laws, but changed the terminology and eliminated the old terminology of massage parlors, therapists, massage therapy centers, and used a single terminology, massage business, as the way to move forward with the new approach to the regulation of massage in the city. Massage businesses aren't recognized as a specific recognized use in Chapter 26, the various use charts. And instead, we have the old terms there, massage parlor, massage therapist, massage therapy center. The changes to Chapter 26, which were at the end of the ordinance, were designed to make the terminology throughout the code consistent. Honestly, even without those changes, the licensing scheme established by the Chapter 11 changes would have continued on, and the planning department would have continued to just interpret the various massage kinds of uses permitted in zone districts where they previously were. The code requires that Chapter 26 changes receive a recommendation from the Planning Commission, and that did not take place. A lot of people worked on this ordinance, and hard to keep track of making sure something went to Planning Commission. I'm happy to own that it didn't go to Planning Commission, but we've since taken that proposal to Planning Commission, and I sat in on their Zoom meeting on last Thursday, explained to them what was going on, and what was needed was them to approve conforming changes, not substantive, but conforming changes, Chapter 26, to make the terminology in Chapter 26 consistent with the new licensing massage business terminology in Chapter 11. They had some questions, but they were fine with that, and they adopted a motion recommending approval of that proposal to the council. I've emailed the council a copy of their motion. So we've now satisfied the requirement of the code. The Planning Commission give you a recommendation on that change. So that allows you to reconsider the ordinance for the purpose of readopting it, such that now the entirety of that ordinance is yet readopted. Two amendments are suggested to the ordinance. Since you're reconsidering, you have the opportunity to amend. And that comes up occasionally in the city and has over time. And the two amendments that I'm recommending are first, that there was one use chart in Chapter 26 that didn't get picked up in the original ordinance, and that was the mixed use districts. So we're just switching the terminology out for mixed use districts. And this gives an opportunity to make the entire ordinance effective upon readoption, which would be effective tonight, which would make, frankly, its effective date about 4 days earlier than it would otherwise have been. If we had to do it 15 days after final publication after tonight, that would extend it out considerably, and you have the power to make it effective upon adoption. So the two motions that are in front of you, one is to reconsider, and as council knows, the ones that have been on council sometime, a reconsideration motion takes the council, if passed by 3/4 majority of the council, takes the council back in time to the moment before it adopted the ordinance on second reading back on August 10th. It's a time machine. So you go back to that point in time, and you're allowed, before you finally adopt an ordinance, to amend it. That just happened, didn't it, on the noise ordinance? So you would be doing the same thing here. Motion to reconsider takes you back in time and allows you to act on the ordinance again. Second motion that is suggested has you making those two minor corrections I described and readopting the ordinance and making it effective upon adoption. So that's the package, and those are the two motions which I recommend.
Thank you very much. Before we go to questions of council, I will open this up to Comments from the public. Is there any member of the public who would like to speak on this item number 5? This is your opportunity. If you would raise your hand in the Zoom format, we will ask Ms. Scheck to check the Zoom format and see if anyone would like to speak on this item.
Mayor, I don't see any Zoom hands up.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone on the telephone or in another device who would, from the public, who would like to speak on this item? Please speak up and I will recognize you. All right, I don't hear anyone from the public wishing to speak on this item, so we will close that portion of this item and go to questions of council. We have questions of council. I mean, questions from council of staff. Any questions before we go to a motion or motions? Okay, seeing none, Mr. Urban, would you please lead us off and provide a motion on this?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move to reconsider ordinance 1696 series 2020 and ordinance repealing chapter 16 article 10 massage parlors and reenacting regulation of massage businesses by amending chapter 11 licenses, permits, and miscellaneous business regulations by the addition of a new article entitled massage businesses and making conforming amendments to chapter 2 article 5 administrative enforcement and chapter 26 zoning and development.
Second.
We have a motion and a second by Mr. Stites. Is there discussion on the motion? Seeing none, will the clerk please poll the council? All those in favor of the motion signify by raising your hand.
I have a question.
Yes.
Are we then doing the second one as a separate vote, or is the second one an amendment to the first motion?
We will.
Second motion's an independent
motion. So we
motion. This first motion just brings the matter in front of the council and enables it to take further action.
Okay.
So once again, all those in favor of the motion signify by raising your hand.
Mr. Mayor, the motion is passed unanimously.
Thank you. And do you have another motion for us, Mr. Urban?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move to amend section 7 of ordinance 1696 series 2020 to insert a new line in code section 26-111B1, identifying massage businesses as permitted use in the mixed use districts under commercial services and retail, and amend section 11 effective date to make the ordinance effective upon readoption, and as amended to readopt ordinance 1696 series of 2020 and ordinance repealing chapter 16 article 10 massage parlors and reenacting regulation of massage businesses by amending chapter 11 licenses, permits, and miscellaneous business regulations by the addition of a new article entitled massage businesses and making conforming amendments to chapter 2 article 5 administrative enforcement and chapter 26 zoning and development, or it published and that it take effect immediately upon adoption as permitted by section 5.11 of the charter.
Second.
We have a motion by second by Mr. Stites again. Is there discussion on the motion? Okay, seeing none, and there's always second chances. We will go to a vote. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by raising your hand, and the clerk will count the votes.
Mr. Mayor, the reconsidered motion has passed unanimously.
Okay, we have finished with our fifth item on the agenda tonight. We will go to city managers matters. Mr. Goff.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple of quick items. Just wanted to all the folks who are listening and city council, if you're getting any questions or concerns from constituents, the Department of Local Affairs is providing assistance to both landlords and renters during this time. As you know, some of the assistance has from the federal government, it has been going away, and so we may start to see some issues with renters not being able to pay rent if they're still out of work. So Department of Local Affairs does have a couple programs to help both landlords and renters. So we'll have that information on our website also. Otherwise, you can go to the Department of Local Affairs and it'll be on their website. Some good news from Jefferson County Public Health. The last 2-week COVID case summary last week was down to 379. So that's down quite a bit. And so it looks like at this point, the variants that Jefferson County was awarded should stay in place. I'm not sure if they're waiting for official approval from the state, but we have met the new thresholds on the case numbers. So that's great news. And just a reminder for City Council, the Jefferson Center for Mental Health virtual gala is coming up on September 10th. Denitza sent you all an email if you would like to participate virtually and receive a meal from Jefferson Center. The city is a sponsor for this event, and we do receive 8 meals. We don't get a table and chairs to sit at, but you do potentially get a meal if you want to participate. So please let Denitza know by August 31st if you'd like to participate. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. We'll just get out our TV trays if we still have those around. So I'm sure you have one, Mr. Dahl. City Attorney's matters.
Nothing other than to thank council for its indulgence on the massage ordinance and to thank Councilmember Urban for helping to spearhead that readoption and get it in place.
Thank you very much. We will go to our elected officials matters and start with our clerk, Mr. Kirkpatrick.
I have nothing new to report this evening, Mr. Mayor. I wish to thank the city's staff once again. And I would remind anyone listening, anytime you happen to encounter a Wheat Ridge police officer, take a moment to thank them for the work they're doing. Right now, their morale needs that appreciation. And I think it is incumbent upon all of us to express our gratitude for their contributions to our health and safety at the risk of their own.
Thank you, Mr. Kirkpatrick. I see we have our treasurer, Mr. Miller, with us. Mr. Miller, do you have anything that you'd like to speak on tonight?
No, sir, Mr. Mayor. I don't have anything new for the council this evening.
Okay, thank you very much. We will start with our counselors at Ms. Nosler-Beck.
Thanks, Mayor. I wanted to thank those that applied for the Cultural Commission. That we had really great candidates that were up for that position, and it's an awesome commission to serve on. And I think during this time of COVID, it's connecting over arts and culture and everything that makes Wheat Ridge so special is a great place to serve. So just thanks for applying. And then I also wanted to thank the teachers and administrators and students and parents and neighbors of parents who are helping make going back to school work. Right now, it is such a new place to be navigating, and Wheat Ridge is doing what Wheat Ridge always does, which is to come together, and we're figuring it out. So thanks so much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Nosler-Beck. Ms. Dozeman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wanted to extend my thanks to the Kellers and all of the neighbors on Irish Street, as well as the residents along Nelson and Ridge Road that have reached out and put in suggestions and really helped city staff and us council members on drafting a noise ordinance. And I'm really glad that we were able to see that through tonight. I think that will really help with some of the issues that our neighbors are having as far as amplified noise, as well as industrial noise. And so I wanted to thank the community for showing up and putting forth effort and staying engaged and involved in that. And I also wanted to welcome all of our students back to school. I know today was a little rough for families, myself included, and that it looks vastly different this year than it ever has before. But, education is the foundation of our country, and it's going to lead our children into their future, and they're going to be one day sitting in these seats. So I just wanted to thank all the teachers and educators and parents that are having to facilitate remote learning. Like, just hang in there and, Godspeed.
Thank you. Mr. Stites.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't have much tonight. Again, school started today for a lot of people, and it was rocky for many of them. I watched about 28 kids try to start school today, and it was interesting. So we're looking forward to it. But so thank you to the citizens and the parents for helping and being supportive of all the teachers in the community, because I do think that they've been dealt a difficult hand to deal with. So thank you for being compassionate about that. And it was reminding me the other day at a business meeting or at a business district meeting that I should remind people to cut their weeds. So if you're out there, cut your weeds.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Stites. Ms. Weaver.
Nothing tonight, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Hulteen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A couple things. First of all, I just want to reiterate thanks to the many citizens who provided thoughtful and collaborative input on the noise ordinance. I think what we ended up with tonight is a great example of how when citizens come forward and stay engaged, but actually work towards a solution, I think we end up with policy that really serves our city well and extends beyond the people we've engaged with. So I appreciate that, and that's just a great team effort. I'm reiterating with everyone else, a huge thank you to especially our teachers who are really doing service to our community and stepping into a very unknown space. I know the teachers in our world are bringing their best with a lot of uncertainty and continue to bring understanding and compassion. That teacher may be the person next to you at the grocery store. So assume everyone's a teacher right now and just extend them a lot of compassion and gratitude. And then I just want to reiterate, I would think this would be incredibly obvious to everybody, but there is a statewide fire ban right now. And just really want to remind people that includes your backyard grill. So just be really, really mindful. We are bone dry, and we really don't want any of these fires to be literally in our backyard. And I just want to send my appreciation to all the firefighters. It's heavy literally in the air and in my heart. And this is a tough time of year. So it's supposed to cool off next week, and I hope the rain comes. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Ms. Hulteen. Mr. Urban.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Between our last meeting and this meeting, in addition to what we've been able to do regarding the massage businesses in Wheat Ridge, the district attorney in Denver, Beth McCann, issued a press release regarding the indictment of 7 individuals operating an international human trafficking ring relating to massage parlors. And so while it seems at times what we're doing here is very dry and very mundane, it does have a real world impact, and especially in the instance of this issue of massage parlors, that I would hope to see additional indictments and other actions taken against those operations here in Wheat Ridge here come shortly. So appreciate everybody's support on that effort, and look forward to seeing some additional press releases down the road regarding what we can do to end that scourge here in the city.
Thank you, Mr. Urban. Ms. Hutchinson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to thank the citizens who participated in helping getting the noise ordinance passed. That's what citizens do that are concerned about things. They get together and they can work it out. I also want to state that last week I was walking my dog down 38th Avenue, and I ran into a senior lady, a nice senior lady, who was weeding the planters that are on 38th Avenue. She does this on Thursday and Friday. Thursday, she'll go from Sheridan to Wadsworth on the east, or on the north side. And then on Friday, she goes from the other way, west to east, on Friday. So I asked her if she was working with the city or whatever. She went to Parks Department herself and volunteered her services to keep the planters weeded. The city has people who water them, but she noticed that they could have some attention. And she's lived in this area since the early 60s. And this is just an example of citizens who've lived here a long time. She saw that something needed to be done, and she didn't wait to get asked. She just went up there and she asked if she could do that. And I just think that was a great thing. So gives her something to do. She likes to walk, and she's also helping the city. And I'm sorry about the 1,000 fish that have died at Sloan's Lake. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Hoppy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would just like to echo everybody's appreciation and thanks to our teachers and to our firefighters and to our first responders and to our police department. And then I'd just like to say also thank you to us as a governing body. I think that we've done some really good work, and I think this noise ordinance, really shows. We saw it in several study sessions. We worked hard and worked through it, and again, Councilmember Dozeman and Nosler Beck that worked with the citizens, and really did a nice job. So I appreciate everybody's hard work. So thank you for that.
Thank you very much. Well, I will echo what our other counselors have said about our students, teachers, and parents going back to school. Not an easy time, but thank you for doing your best efforts to try to teach our children. I know that they will come out of this with an experience that they'll never forget, and it's going to be thanks to the support that they have in our community. Thank you to the citizens who join us at our meetings and work with our counselors and our staff to make good legislation. That's what makes our city such a great place to live in. I was really joyed to see our numbers on the COVID pandemic scales going down. We seem to be taking care of business here, and I would just encourage everybody to take heart. I know it's a bit of the dog days of summer, but keep washing your hands, keep social distancing, wear masks when you're inside and outside when you encounter other human beings, and think about those human beings, because we're all in this together and we're winning. So with no further business to come before the council, we stand adjourned. Oh, one more thing, we will not be back in session for the next 2 weeks. Next week is the 5th Monday, and the Monday after that is Labor Day. So I will hope everyone has a good end of summer vacation, and we look forward to seeing everybody back in September. With that, we are adjourned.